All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Um, as we always do, it is approximately 6:14 p.m. This is our special meeting called for May 2nd at 6 p.m. As we always start with our vision, the Bronzeville Classical Community intentionally values and highlights the strength of all members through providing a personalized learning experience, celebrating diversity, and practicing creative problem solving in order to cultivate a strong accelerated program to nurture lifelong learners. Our norms are be results oriented, be fully present, be respectful of others' assume the best intentions, stay focused, stay student focused. Our mission, BCS, commits to personalized growth and the empowerment of all. Before we get started, I would like to move that Richard. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's do. Well, on one hand, we need to do it, but I guess we can establish here first. So let's establish that we have a quorum. I guess we could do it by. Say it again. Yeah, we'll do a roll call for those here right now. Here.
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 Thank you. So we do have a quorum.
It's in 207.
All right, great. So we do have a quorum. I'd like to move that Richard Flowers, Dr. Charles Barron, Joyce Brown all be able to participate virtually at this meeting. Great. Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? All right, we'll vote by hand vote. All those in favor of allowing virtual participation, raise your hand. All right, great. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that motion passes. So they will be allowed to participate remotely. All right, moving right into the agenda. Is she here?
Excuse me, Mr. Spears. I mean, is anyone else getting the echo from Steve?
Is Dr. Pope or Ms. Brown virtual?
Anybody that's not talking probably need to move.
All right, so Dr. Pope is absent. All right, so we have a quorum. And now we're going to move right into the meeting. The agenda. Did everyone see the agenda? All right. I move that we approve the agenda as stated. Any discussion? Okay, there being no discussion, all those in favor, and we'll do a hand vote here, and then we'll do a voice vote for those board members who are virtual. So all those in favor in the room now vote by raising your hand. All right, we have 8 yeses. All those at home in favor of approving the agenda. Mr. Flowers, how do you vote? Mr. Flowers?
Yay.
Okay, Dr. Barron?
Yay.
Yay. Yay.
Okay, and Joyce Brown?
Yes.
All right, great. Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? All right, great. So the motion to approve the agenda as stated passes. So we'll move right into the agenda with fundraiser proposals. Ms. Spicer.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. Special call meetings allowing people to participate virtually and in person can be a challenge. So thank you publicly, Mr. Spears, for making it happen. Our first fundraising proposal that I'd like to present this evening is for our Mother's Day event scheduled for Sunday, May 7th. I move that the LSC approves the sale of Mother's Day
Connection?
brunch tickets for
We lose
Sunday,
connection?
March 7th.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just us right now.
yeah. Joyce, can you hear them? Joyce, can you hear them? You can hear them?
Mm-hmm.
You can hear them? Can you let them know that Richard and I can't hear them?
Did you hear that, Mr. Spears? Did you hear that, Mr. Spears? So Dr. Aaron and Mr. Aaron and Mr. Klein, they can't hear you though. They can't hear you though. I had to log out and just log back in.
Okay.
I agree.
I can hear you. Yeah.
So who was the second? Thank you.
The motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion? There being none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion vote in person by raising your hand. All those in favor virtually, please give a voice vote. Mr. Flowers? Mr. Flowers, Dr. Barron,
Yes.
can they hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
okay. Joyce?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Flowers?
It looks like he's still muted though. I can see his muted microphone.
All right, so we'll take it passes. Any opposed? Any abstentions in person or at home? All right, that motion passes. Yeah, we'll just say one didn't vote yet. We'll move on to the next fundraising proposal.
We would like to propose our Father's Day event to be held in June of 2023. I move that we hold a Father's Day event June 2023.
Okay, the motion's been made and properly second. Any discussion? There being none, we'll vote and present by raising your hand. All those in favor of the motion? All right, great. Those at home, we'll take a verbal. Mr. Flowers? Dr. Barron?
Yes. Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. We'll move on to the next.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the budget, the proposed budget. It's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to shift to a PowerPoint that the LSC can see who are present in the room. Mr. Spears will email a viewable link to our LSC members who are joining online. It's not in the folder yet. You gonna do that? Okay, I'm about to do it right now. I'm gonna send it in the G chat, Mr. Spears. Okay, so the link is there. all be kind to me? It's my first one. Can the microphone reach Mr. Spears soon? All right, good evening, everyone. As previously stated, this slideshow presentation will be shared with all families via the Parent Square this evening. Our virtual LSC members should be receiving this link through the LSC Google Drive folder, so please check there. If you have any issues or concerns, please let Mr. Spears know, and he will ensure that you have access. So those in the room, I have the presentation up front. All right, so I'm going to start with our CIWP priorities. For this fiscal year, we are in a bit of a different flow than we typically are. The budget should align to your CIWP or your continuous improvement work plan so that we ensure that all of our priorities have the proper funding to make sure that we are meeting our benchmarks and shifting the metrics on however we are choosing to measure growth. However, we have selected some preliminary priorities based on our current student needs and our current CIWP. We are endeavoring to streamline a little bit, so we will be shifting from 4 priorities to 3 priorities. One priority is no longer going to be a priority after I talk a little bit about our our position allocations for this year. So you'll notice that we will continue to have CIWP priorities in curriculum and instruction, really focused on personalized learning in the areas of overall Tier 1 instruction, as well as advancing or accelerating learning. And we'll talk about that in 2 ways, through positions and curriculum adoptions. Through this particular priority, our theory of action says that our professional development plan is going to align with the CIWP priorities and be supported by committee-based staff, which is our teachers. The metrics that we're going to use to measure this growth is the My School, My Voice collaborative teacher component, our student growth data, as well as our IoT effectiveness rubric. The IoT leads much of this work, and our IoT and our PPLC will also work very, very closely with this particular priority. The second priority is around connectedness and well-being, which is very, very similar to our supportive and equitable discipline for all. Growing into middle school and having older learners, we definitely felt like this should continue to be a priority. So our theory of action is preliminary based on making sure that our core mission statement of values, skills, and expectations support a restorative approach to discipline, ensuring that everyone is properly trained and there is coherence and fidelity in our restorative practices, which will be measured by the 5 essentials, the Cultivate student surveys, as well as the Behavior Health Team Key Component Survey. The Behavior Health Key Component Survey is very, very similar to the IoT effective rubric. The BHT Key Component Survey is more SEL based, whereas the ILT effectiveness rubric is focused on academics and instruction. Our last area is really around creating a student voice committee designed to forge student-adult partnerships and school improvement with some clear criteria to help students identify needs, to set goals, and put in a progress monitoring system. We will see personalized plans, student goal setting, and then a common value and understanding of what school-wide instruction and culture goals are, and make sure that that's communicated to all. And we would look at student growth data as well as cultivate students. Are there any questions on these priorities? The main priority that you will see that is no longer a priority is really around us building out and launching MTSS, okay? Here is our current status. We have 373 students with a projected baseline of 58 students in grade 7. I am excited to share that we have increased our interventionist position, which is funded centrally. We do not have to use discretionary funds for that, which is why MTSS is no longer a CIWP priority, because next school year we'll have 2 interventionists who will lead that work and enact that work. 2 full-time positions dedicated just to that. And so there will be other metrics and reports in place, so it does not have to live in our improvement work plan. The second piece is this is very, very exciting. We have a personalized learning coordinator. So that person is a free position that will come on board to train the full staff wall to wall on personalized learning strategies and techniques, monitor implementation, as well as coach teachers through that process. Also centrally funded. We do not have to use our discretionary funds for that. That is a result of our commitment to personalized learning without district resources. So one of the times when we just make do, it really benefited us. This year, they launched the official certification program, and BCS was in a much different space than the other teachers, the other schools in the cohort who had been through a whole school redesign. We did not benefit from that at all. So as a result of our own independent work and commitment to this, we were awarded with a position. We also are moving from 3 diverse learner teachers to 4 diverse learner teachers, which is also exciting for our team because we can have one of our teachers do case management, which will help out. Because right now, the teachers have to do part of that in their role. And then lastly, I'm very, very, very excited that we are able to bring on our hourly employees as full-time employees as teacher assistants. So there will be one person for kindergarten, one person for second, one person for first. I miss first grade. Historically, it has just been Ms. Bryant, who's been shared across 4 classrooms. So now we're able to add on 2 positions so that teachers have some support. We will continue to have our internal accounts intact from student fees to support deficits that may arise from our operational costs, which should be minimal. We plan to continue to work with Something to Build Upon, Ladies of Virtue, Critical Thinking Child, 530 Scholars, to continue to rent our space so that that continues to be a revenue stream for us. We also are excited to share that the district will continue to fund our IOT or Instructional Leadership Team work /PPLC with $15,000+ allocated for our budget. In previous years, we did have to pay those extended day fees or monies out of our discretionary funds, but the district is essentially funding those. We also have support to develop our professional learning plan. So this will probably be a part, not probably, this will be a part of the work that our 2 interventionists and our personalized learning coordinator will complete and present to the PPLC/IOT for approval. And so that is a big shift for us this year. And then just know that every decision that we made, we kept students and student needs at the center. Our budget is fluid. We try to estimate during this time of year what we're going to need for next year. And just know that we're going to try to monitor our enrollment, our 20th day enrollment in particular, looking at courses that may need new curriculums or
Did they
curriculum
go out again?
adoptions, as well as where our positions are falling. So I do want you to know that our budget is fluid.
Did you
and we
guys
may
get
have to
the
reallocate.
document
So
too?
this
I
planning budget
can't
does
find the
not
document.
exempt us from future budget,
Okay.
what do I call those? Budget transfer requests. The other thing is that after the budgets are balanced, submitted, and approved, schools go through
I
the
guess we gotta
SOW
sign out and
process,
jump
which
back
is the
on
school
again.
organizational worksheet. And that basically
Can you hear
says
them, Joyce?
who is going to be funded
You can hear
where.
them?
Inside of our planning software, I already have that information. The school organization worksheet has to be done separately because it's an HR portal. So I have a budget planning portal, I have a actual live budget portal, and then there's the HR portal. And so that is a part of the HR portal. However, we are obligated to put teachers in places of student need first, policy, tenure, and academic programming. Certification also factors into that as well. We have 4 funds that we receive monies from. Our local funds are our student-based budget. The second fund we get is from the state, and those are supplemental aid funds. We get classical school funds, and then we also get Title II funds from the federal government. Questions? Our biggest funds come from local funds and classical funds. Supplemental aid is, I want to be exact. Our supplemental aid is $73,287.50. Our Title II funds are $40,000, and then our classical school funds and our school-based budget is much larger than that. So those are two very small funds. What you will see on the screen is our breakdown from last fiscal year into the projected fiscal year allocation. You will notice that from our students in kindergarten through third in LRE 1 and 2, which refers to special education, we have 214 students or 220 students this year, giving us, and the per pupil rate is $5,507.90. And then for our students in grades 4 through 8, general education in LRE 1 and 2, that rate is $5,147.57 at 233 students, giving us a total of 453 students for a total revenue of $2,411,122.39. Funds that we do not control are diverse learner services. So our special education classroom assistants and our special education teachers are funded centrally. They do not come out of our discretionary funds. We have 3 foundational positions. They are listed in our 115 funds, but that is the principal, the clerk, and the counselor, 1 counselor. Food service, we get 1 security officer. The assistant principal has a little asterisk next to it, and security has a little asterisk next to it. We fund an additional security officer so that we have security here while students are on campus for the after-school program. So that's why we have 2 security officers. We also fund AP Bellamy's position, and then the last 2 bullets, the personalized learning coordinator and the additional interventionist are all centrally funded. The extra security guard and assistant principal shouldn't be on this slide, but I did want to make that distinction for you all. Do you have any questions about the positions or the funds that we don't control for personnel? I'll update that before we send it out. For enrollment, this is how our numbers are rolling out, for a total of 453. There is a slight asterisk next to 7th grade. We are excited that some of our students did get into selective enrollment academic centers, so they may be making the transition. However, we will be held harmless for this number, so they will fund our program at 58. If we fall below that, we will be held harmless. Here is a breakdown of our aid, and I want to let me see something because I just feel like that's not right. Okay, it is right. So I'll show it here too and from the PowerPoint. I know these numbers are really small, so I apologize. The first column that you see that has the dark box is our SBB dollars. It breaks down how much is going to personnel and then how much goes to non-personnel. Remember, our non-personnel are all the things that we buy. Our supplies, our consultants, our curriculum, all of that. So after we pay for salaries, we have about $152,000 to allocate. Which one? It's because it is, let me take my cursor out of there, because it is in the budgeting software, the extended decimal points are there, but these are dollars and cents, so there are some change in there. So you see our, for SBB, how much is in that particular fund, how much goes to personnel, how much goes to non-personnel expenses. The supplemental aid is actually $85,000. It's a little bit more than what the handout provided, but this is our actual working planning budget. $85,000 of that goes to personnel expenses, and then the leftover $116 I put in the contingency line for non-personnel expenses. And then for classical school funds, you will see that the majority of that goes to positions. We use our classical school funds to make sure that we have full-time music, full-time art, full-time PE, and a world language. Most schools do not have full-time art and music. So primarily we use those funds for that programmatic support. And then after we allocate those dollars for salaries, we have $345 left, which goes to a contingency line. We do not have the PAC funds because we are not a Title I school. So you'll notice in those columns, we do not have Title I money or PAC money. We do get Title II funds, which helps with reduced class size. So most schools don't have 2 classes per grade level. We're larger elementary school. And so we do get a few funds, $40,000, to help out with that reduced class size. And so after allocating most of those funds to positions, we have $4 left, and that went to a contingency line. I just want to be exact with the numbers. Okay, so I wanted to come back here because remember we talked about this, but I wanted you all to actually see it in a budget platform. Any questions on these before I move on? I think the big thing to know is that we got an additional $283,734 this year than we did last year. $283,734. I see you, Ms. Townsend. I'm glad I'm looking back. I know I talk fast. Yes, Ms. Lewis? Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. This conversation probably is going to look much different after next year. So FY25 will probably look very similar. When we get to FY26, it may look a little different. No, actually, that's across the district. So post-COVID, most schools have been held harmless for the 20th day numbers because of all the transition that's happening in the city. So this is something that they have been doing across the board, but you know, the well may run dry. Mm-hmm. Also, this is just a breakdown in our positions, what's changed. You will see that we got an additional 3 positions that are funded by the district. If I add on RTAs, it's actually 5. So very exciting times at Bronzeville Classical. Next, you'll see just the enrollment numbers that we've already talked about, a breakdown. This gives you our free and reduced lunch. So we have always kind of hovered around 16 to 18%. This is calculated based on our family income information forms that we cannot get out of the 60% in. But I got something for next year, so I can get 100% of those forms. So I'm working on it. But hopefully this goes up. This number is how we get the supplemental aid from the state. So if you notice, if we only got $85,000, there are schools that get much, much more money from the state because of that number. So, all right. And so if you look at the per pupil amount, so the number of students that receive free and reduced lunch, we can get an additional $1,000. So that's how they came up with $85,622.70 for our supplemental aid based on the 80, and I don't know if they round that up to 81, but the 80 to 81 students at the $1,000 rate. This further shows for students who are English language learners, we have a total of 4 students. And so we have to have 1 teacher on staff who is ESL or bilingual endorsed to make sure that the students don't have any language challenges Typically, that's not the case at Bronzeville Classical, but when you do the homeschool language, the home language form, if you say you speak another language, you're automatically put into this. And so we've been working very, very closely with our English language program teacher during enrollment to make sure that we catch those and make sure it's no errors, because that makes us test more and provide additional accommodations, even though the student is English language proficient. The second piece is because we only have 4 students, less than 20, we have a stipend that we pay for the English language program teacher to make sure that these students are taken care of. And so that person gets a $2,800, well, the school gets $2,800, $1,000 stipend, and then we get additional funds for those students, and that is $1,800. So a total of $2,800 to support English language learners.
Doc, can you hear?
Going on to our special education allotment, we talk about this every month at our LSC meetings. Last school year at the 20th day, we had 11 students in LRE 1. This year we have 15. So although we went up 3, we're very, very proud that our students are mostly in an included setting and they are not isolated from their grade level peers. And then our staffing allocations went up. Initially, they took 2 positions, but then we got those back. So this was not, our handout wasn't updated. And then this is the money that I talked about for the ILT. This money is an extended day bucket open for level 1 support schools. So the size that we are, the index number is how they calculate this. So next school year, our ILT will have $17,280. What we also found out is that we could just give our ILT a stipend for this extended day work instead of giving them hourly pay. And then we also can take them to teacher leader conferences. We did not find that out until late in the game. I found a conference that is very pricey, and I'm trying to see if the ILT would like to go because, of course, we don't want to leave any money on the table. So we do have funds left over in our ILT budget line, and so we've invited our ILT members to attend a teacher leadership conference if they'd like. We do continue to have 1 additional miscellaneous person, so we will be hiring for this position. This person will continue to help out wherever needed, fill in the gaps, just like Ms. Thomas and Ms. C. Jones have been doing this school year, and also help with lunch and recess support. I don't know if care room attendants are going to continue for next school year, but if so, I'm definitely going to opt into the district providing one. What's not in the presentation, we don't have an athletic director at the elementary level, but we do have an athletic liaison. That extended day pay is typically paid out of our discretionary funds for extended time. Coaching is coaching and IoT supports are not included in this rollout as positions. So the positions are there, but because we don't fund them, they're not in our allocations. Class size positions, our school attendants and miscellaneous support, our TAs. We don't have any restorative justice positions, no tutoring core. Our ODLSS allocations are handled centrally, and then federal funds are not included in this either. All right, so now is the time that you all can ask some questions. One thing I did want to share with you all is just a little bit so you all know that we have $153,512 to allocate. So you know how every month I give you that spreadsheet of non-payroll budget lines? That's what I'm going to talk about right now before we get to questions. Any questions about the positions or other personnel allocations? Okay, so we're only going to talk about now $153,000. Okay. So our $153,000 is allocated towards first is $25,000 for thank you.
So this is not on the slides, right?
And did you all see all that green? So we're balanced. So after we approve.
He asked, "Is this on the slide?"
Yeah, no, I asked if the discussion around the 153,000, is that on the slide presentation or that's not included, or do we have a document to see what this is, what she's talking about?
It is not in the slide presentation. There is a working Google Sheet that I can send out. I will make this viewable so that we can send this out. But I have to update it because as position costs change, this number changed. So my initial work in here is slightly different because I moved around how I fund different teacher positions. But this is a good working document. So it may not match exactly.
Okay.
And I just added the sheet that I'm reading from that you can add to the slide. Since it's a Google document, they'll be able to see the updates as I make them. All right, so it's in the folder too if you all want to see as well. So the first thing you all will note is that in this fund, before it got to 153,000, I did open up 2 teacher positions for 7th grade. We have an official clerk assistant, and Mr. Lewis does not have to wear 15 hats anymore because we have someone that we're going to hire to help Ms. Jones out. And then now we have a 2nd grade kindergarten teacher assistant because primarily this school year, Ms. Bryan has been working with 1st grade. So those positions have been opened. So that's before we got to the 153,000. So roughly, we've allocated $25,000 for substitute teachers for either content team release days or team lead release days. They will be doing professional learning, planning for rigor walks, teacher leader training, data analysis, planning and preparation for content team days. So whenever the teachers have release day, that means that I usually get, this year is 7 subs, so the whole STEM team is out. 7 subs, so the whole humanities team is out so that they're working together during the school day. And then the essential team had 2 days this year. They didn't have 4 like the reading and math teachers, but they had 2, 1 each semester. So I got 4 subs on those days. So any questions about that before we move on? Okay. We do have monies for consultants. If I put those together, it's roughly about $28,000. That is for like the adult SEL, 4 agreements, professional learning, which is something we'll do next year. Mosaic has been here that you all approved previously for adult SEL. Our curriculum consultant, because we are adopting a new humanities curriculum, and we are also implementing interim assessments as a part of our CIWP, and so having a curriculum consultant here helping teachers analyze that data to drive instructional decisions. I did have Rico on here. I'm going to delete that line because it's already in the budget. So before I can allocate anything, they've already allocated about $8,400 for next school year. Field trips is around $10,000 to cover bus, admissions, sporting events, anything that we'll have to get a bus for. Student incentives around, yes.
I can't hear anything.
So I calculated that based on 2 field trips per homeroom per year, based on the cost, the average cost of buses. That is without parent supplementation. So if I have families who can't pay, we fall short when we charge the $10, then this is where I pull that money from. Yes, because we're going to remove that out of the student fee this school year. So we will continue to do like a $10 base for all field trips, but we do have this money allocated if there are families who can't afford it, and also to offset the cost for admissions. Any other questions on that? Okay. We have student incentives. You all know we love a good incentive around here, around $10,000 for that. Music supplies, 1,000. Art supplies, 5,000. We have 10,000 allocated for digital licenses. 10,000 for additional instructional material and reading because we are adopting a new curriculum. $10,000 to support math curriculum, the consumables. For science, because we have adopted Skyline, it should be minimal instructional costs because the district picks up those curriculum costs, but we did allocate $2,500 because we may need to get additional supplies for our kits that we already have, like expired food coloring that may affect an experiment, but I did want to have some money available if we needed additional items. For elementary sports, we do have $3,500, so we don't have to take it from our field trip line. The SEL consultants we already talked about. The student admissions, so I'll share this when I get there, but it's broken out a little bit because, like, remember I said $10,000 for field trips. It was very general on my spreadsheet, but our new consultant was helping me make it make sense so that when we are actually spending these monies, or I'm coming to you all to transfer money from one line to the next, I'm ready to say, like, we're taking it from the general field trip line to put it in the sports line because we didn't allocate enough, if that makes sense. Already talked about student field trips, incentives. Talked about League 180 for curriculum. Okay, so the office supplies will be $15,048. I already talked about managed print. It's $8,400. If we don't use all of that, it rolls over. That includes the paper. And then this is a new expenditure. This is $20,000 for business management services. So this year, I would like to allocate that money to have basically a weekly audit that goes on. We have our Friends of Bronzeville. We are starting to do fundraisers that are making a lot of money. They go into our internal accounts. And I think our budget is getting a little bit more complex with the different grade levels, curriculum adoptions. So with this $20,000, this person comes in twice a month, goes through everything with a fine-tooth comb, making sure when we do budget transfers, they are coming from and going to the correct lines. We are following all federal and state guidelines for funds, making sure that we are receipting things, ordering things. All the paperwork is done properly for checks. Like, checks have to be done a certain way. When we collect money, making sure that it's deposited in a timely manner, is documented properly, so that when we do get our not frequent CPS audits, we won't have any audit exceptions. So if you deposit something late, that's an audit exception. If we transfer from one budget line to the wrong budget line, those are audit exceptions. And while Ms. Jones goes to ongoing clerk training, the budget is not the only thing she's responsible for. So having this consultant will be ongoing feedback that I can update the LSC in regards to us being on track, or if there are any exceptions or any corrections that we need to make. It will hopefully prevent us from having to do a lot of budget transfers because we'll be catching things on a much more regular basis. And then he also takes the lead on training the entire staff, including Ms. Jones, on all things financial. Teachers have to do their reimbursement. He takes care of that. I don't have to worry about that. Ms. Jones doesn't have to worry about that. Payroll is an issue. Ms. Jones doesn't have to call the SSC, open a ticket, and wait for somebody. He will handle all of that for us. Question? Bi-weekly. Mm-hmm. Those are excellent questions. So one, the district offers premium services, same exact job title, role. The CPS positions are limited. So if you don't already have a relationship with a specialist, or you're not on a waiting list, you probably won't get one. So from that, because people have entrepreneurial spirits, consultants start working for the district and then they go off and start their own businesses. So this particular consultant worked for the district for 7 years. He is now into doing this work for 20 years, is a CPS vendor, and currently has a portfolio of 15 schools. And working with Mr. Estes over at Cook, Mrs. Talley at Teal, has worked at Beethoven right down the street. So definitely work with other principals that I know and trust. Actually got this referral from Mrs. Talley. This has come up because when we opened our doors, I had a support team that was identified and assigned to me by then Chief Academic Officer or Chief Education Officer Latanya McDade. Solomon Walters has now been promoted, and he's like a director of the budgeting team. So in previous years, he had time to come over, go through the system with me, help me with allocations, open positions, closed positions, give me recommendations on budget transfers, what's allowable, what's not allowable. So now in his elevation, he does not necessarily have time for that anymore. He made time for me today, but literally I freaked out and had multiple heart attacks because I did not know the detail of what I needed to know to make this happen. So I learned a lot. And so when he came, he literally worked for like an hour for free pro bono today with us saying, if this is approved by the LSC moving forward, I will not have to sweat about the budget anymore because I now have support that we pay for that is not free help that I have to call and reach out for. So we were almost in a situation where I don't know what I was going to do, but I was going to figure it out because I had almost figured out everything before he came. But it's peace of mind.
Larger schools with large enrollments have a business person. They have that full-time position. So like Kenwood, 2,000 kids.
They have a full-time position.
All of the money that goes around for a school that large. So it's relative to experience, training, and as Principal Spicer just said, it's the way of the world. That it's there's a market and there are people that had the experience to do it.
And I think it also just gives us peace of mind too. I don't want to wait till the audit. And I mean, Ms. Jones is amazing. She's great. I'm not expecting anything, but we are people. So I know this year we are going to have an audit. Because we have a BCS parent. Shout out to our BCS parent that works in the auditing department. Was like, y'all on the list. But we haven't had one in 5 years, and a lot can happen in 5 years. We've gone from 91 to 393, and so a lot more money comes into. Yeah, I mean, it's a regular practice. I mean, these are public funds. These are your tax dollars. Yeah, yeah. And to catch things before they go too far. Because I would much rather say, like, hey, you guys, we made this mistake. I caught this. This is how we're going to fix it moving forward. Like, we can't go back and fix it, but going forward, we can fix it. So that prevents those types of things from happening. So when we have our overall district audit, our things are going to be, in order. Because, I mean, it's a lot of binders. It's a lot of forms. I mean, as you can imagine, it's a public entity with public funds. So there's a lot of accounting and tracking that has to go on. So, for example, those Title II funds that 2 positions are funded out of, twice a year, like the teachers have to go in and put in their schedule to account for their time and effort because they're federal dollars. And if you look at those funds, we primarily fund personnel positions out of those buckets because it's no gray area. It's not like that's the copier. Somebody broke in a school, they stole a copier. Now I can't show the federal government what I spent $85,000 on. So we typically use those for personnel costs because you can prove that.
For the record, Richard had to drop off. He said 7. Did he drop off, Mr. Spears?
Are there any other questions or concerns that you all have for me?
I learned a lot, particularly that food coloring expires, but I didn't know that.
It does expire and will affect the experiment. I'd like to move that I move that the LSC approves the proposed 2023-2024 school budget.
All right, the motion's been made and properly second. Any discussion? Here in person or virtually, any questions?
All of these, I mean, only, I guess not really, I guess it is a question. So all of the documents that we just discussed about the 153 will be forwarded to us, right? Or we will get a chance to see them.
So there being no comments or questions from the LSC members, are there any comments or questions from the public?
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, I was just saying, the, okay. Okay, let me, with my audio, I don't know what's going on. All right, I'll just type it in the chat real quick. Chat.
Yes, it's already been shared and added to the folder. I have some.
We haven't seen.
Yes, the document is going to be shared and added to the LSC folder. I do have to update it based on what's actually in EPM. EPM is our budgeting and planning software that I don't have share access for. So all this information is in the is in the Google Sheet that we shared, but I do have to update it so that it accurately reflects. When I am actually doing it in EPM, the numbers are real time. I started doing the Google slide before I started working in EPM, so the numbers are slightly off. As well as our consultant asked me to break out some funds. Like, don't just lump it in 10,000. Like, it needs to be 10,000 for students, this, and this. So another benefit of having a consultant.
Okay,
That's all he sent me. What? That's all he sent me. What? He said. No, I'm sorry.
yeah, I don't see it. That's fine.
Are there any questions from anyone in the public?
That's not true. Because on official documents, I don't use green pen. Hey, say whatever you want to say. I'm not worried about it.
Not yet. It's in the sheets though.
It's not in there.
Right. She got it. Yeah.
Miss Allen, you need it. Well, it's a loud document, so.
All right. And Baron and Joyce, they're good. All right, great. All right, so the motion's been moved and properly second. All those in favor in person, vote by raising your hand.